names. First of all, let's understand there's only 7 unique letters that are used in music. So if you can say your ABCs from A to G, you got this one in the back, okay? So let's first identify middle C. I'm playing an 88 key keyboard. You may have 61 keys, you may have 30-some keys for the little beginner keyboards, or maybe even 20-something. But you want to find the key that is most center of the whole keyboard, is shaped like an L, okay, that has 2 black keys directly to the right. That is called middle C. So of course the alphabet starts on the letter A, but most musicians tend to start teaching by middle C, okay? So obviously if you only have 7 letters from A to G, when you get to G, you must start over. So in the context of a C major scale, and I hope you watched the first video from last week, we understand that a major scale is a series of whole steps and half steps, okay? So in the key of C, whether you understand the whole step, half step movement or not, you can play from C to C. But to get there, we have to repeat some letters, right? Okay? So if this is C, just going in the flow of the alphabet. The next is D, the next is E, F, G. Okay, so we've already utilized all of the letters, but we have to get back to the next C. You have to end on the same note you began on. So if this is G, I just start over. A, B, C. Very simple. Okay? So I've gone through all of the unique letters, but what about all these notes? These notes don't take on another letter. There's no G's and there's no H's and I's and J's. They borrow from the white keys, okay? And they are called your sharps or your flats. To sharpen a note, all it means to do is to raise that note, okay? So you're going to augment it. So let's say I'm on the key of G. If I go up, I'm sharpening it, okay? This black key takes the name of the white key with the identifier of sharp. Very simple. So I'm on G, I dropped up, that's a G sharp. Likewise, if I'm on G and I hop down, it's a G flat. Alright? Let's try it again. So let's find D. This is C, middle C, so this is D. If I wanted to play a D flat, and you should remember this from last week, if I wanted to play a D flat, what should I do? Right, I should hop down. That's a D flat. But if I were on the key of C and wanted to hop up, that same note would now be called a C sharp. Okay? So these are just identifiers letting us know if you're going to go up or if you're going to go down. Now, playing by ear, and I assume most of you all on this page or on this YouTube channel, you're learning to play by ear. Your sharps and your flats really are more important if you're playing sheet music, because obviously in smaller churches like most of us play, if you say C sharp, everybody's going to know what you're talking about, okay? And if you say D flat, everybody's going to know what you're talking about. But as it relates to sheet music, I'm just going to show you this. I'm not teaching you all how to play notation. I'm just going to show you this. If I had to do the same thing with sheet music, to properly write out the key signature, I need to identify all the notes of the scale, and I'm telling the reader what to do with each note. Am I going to sharpen it, flatten it, or leave it in its natural state? So last week we learned the D flat major scale, and that's a good key for example. So there are a few rules we have to establish when you're writing out a key signature, or really when you are trying to correctly spell out a scale. You should never duplicate a letter. So this is the main reason, like I taught you all last week, I really call this D flat instead of C sharp. Okay? So for instance, we know the keys are these: if you learned them last week. So now, how could I spell that out without duplicating any of the letters? So let's use C sharp, for example. So let's say I want to call this note C sharp, okay? We've established what the notes are, so let's spell them out. C sharp, D sharp, F, F sharp. So you see what happened? If I'm going to call a key sharp, all the notes have to be sharp or in their natural state without duplicating any letter. Okay? So if I keep F in its natural state, and I go up to the next note, which is F sharp, I've messed up the rules. Okay? And this is just for your information, okay? So let's think about it in terms of D flat. So if that's D flat, this is E flat. That's F, this is G flat. So you see how that works? Now I went from F to G flat, and I can continue on. A flat, B flat, C, and D flat. So that's the basis behind when you hear musicians say, well, C sharp is not really correct. Now, if I'm writing sheet music, if I want to be extra complicated, I actually can make it work where you can call it C sharp. But you can simply see this is a key signature for the key of D flat. If I'm reading this, I only have to focus on 5 notes. If I'm reading this, this is a key signature for C sharp. The same key, but now I have to focus on 7 notes in my key signature. All right. So I can actually go back and make that C sharp work, but something has to happen. This is C sharp. This is D sharp. This note has to be natural or a sharp. The only way I can make this a sharp is borrow from this E. Now it's called an E sharp. So that starts to confuse the process. This starts to confuse a lot of musicians. So yes, technically, even these white notes can be called sharp or flat. And that only happens, or it's only relative to sheet music when a composer wants to do something a little different. I just wanted to toss that out there, not to confuse you all, but just so you know what happens. And this is why I call this D flat instead of C sharp, okay? So you can just look at the black keys as your sharps and flats and not get confused with the white keys being sharpened or flattened. Hope this is making sense. If not, please drop a comment and I'll break it down even a little bit more, okay? Quick recap, there are only 7 letters in a major scale, okay? Only 7. Those are your white keys primarily. If you hop up to a black key, that's a sharp. If you hop down from a white key, that's a flat, okay? And in some instances, you will even call the white keys sharp or flat. But typically you do not. If you're simply playing by ear, you're playing in a church environment. We try to keep it simple in church, okay? All right, so now let's scale back and jump to the major scales. We've learned this last week, but now I want to show you a group of scales giving you the proper fingering, okay? Because it's one thing to know the whole steps and half steps, but the reason why a lot of musicians, they can't do the line, stuff like that, because their fingering is a little bit, it's a little bit off. All right, so back to the key of C. The major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, your fingers each have a number. As I told you earlier, this is a numbers game, numbers and letters. So if I'm looking at my right hand, from left to right, numerically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The left hand is the exact opposite. The thumb is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the opposite direction. So now I'm going to give you what I call the Group A major scales, meaning all of these scales use the same pattern for fingering. So in the key of C, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So to keep in this flow of movement, I need to go under that note with my thumb. So I don't know if you can see that on the camera. So it's 1, 2, 3. And I want to go under that middle finger with the 1, with my thumb again. And now you see that allows me to complete the scale. Hope you saw that. So it's 1, 2, 3. I go under. So now I'm back to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the pattern is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the fingers you want to use. 1, 2, 3. You go under, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again. And you just reverse that to come back down. Okay? So we had to go under to go up the scale. Now we're going to have to go over to come back down. So we go over with the middle finger, or the 3, then it's 2, 1. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, under, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, over, 3, 2, 1. All right. So the left hand would be the opposite. We're going to start on the pinky, which is the 5 in the left hand. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have to go over 3, 2, 1. Okay? Then you reverse it. 1, 2, 3, under. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So that over and under movement is very important. It gives you the ability to continue to progress, because otherwise you're going to run out of fingers, and then your fingering is going to get awkward. You can't be as fluid, okay, in your movement. Let's try it again. Let's just go ahead and try both hands. And I just completely rejected the left hand, so let's try it again. There you go. And basically how I would approach that when you're first learning your scales, just please practice them hands apart, okay? So get the technique where that over and under movement is kind of automatic, so you're not thinking over one hand and under the other hand. That will confuse you. Try them hands apart first, and then try to put them together. All right, so again, we're staying with what I call Group A scales. All of these scales use the same fingering. So C is the first one. The next one is D. Okay? This is the boring stuff, you all, but you got to stick with me. Learning your scales, your numbers, I'm telling you, this is going to help you when we get into chord progressions and when we go back and review the number system. You got to hang on. All right. The key of D, the scale is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Same fingering. 1, 2, 3 under. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Descend. Over. Okay. You should be getting it by now. It's going to be the same thing in your left hand. Same thing we did in the key of C. Same fingers. Over. Under. Alright? Next key is the key, and you can always stop, okay, people. You don't have to watch the whole video all at once. Stop and make sure you are learning these scales. Next key is the key of E major. And this is especially important for gospel musicians or the small church musicians. We tend to run away from these natural keys. Okay, but the more practice that you have with your scale and your number systems, the more confidence that you'll have. It makes no sense. A lot of musicians get up in key of A flat. They're doing all kinds of changes, right? Basic stuff that don't wash. So you get to a place where you're confident in all of your keys. Alright, same fingering. The notes are E, F sharp. Write these down if you have to, but also you can obviously just go online and get it. Main thing here is showing you the proper fingering, not the notes. You can always go online and find the notes, okay? E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. The notes, or the fingering rather, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Left hand. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right? Almost home. It's only about 5 of these, so we're almost there. Bear with us. Let's move on to the key of G major. Okay? The notes are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Fingering. 1, 2, 3, under. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Left hand. Over. Under. 2 and 1. All right, last one, the key of A major. All right, your notes. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, over, 3, 2, 1. Left hand. dealt with briefly key names, and we dealt with the sharps and your flats, how to correctly spell out your scales, and we dealt with the Group A major scales, the scales that relate to the fingering system 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in your right hand, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1 in your left hand. There will be questions on the Facebook page. If you're on YouTube and you're not on Facebook, you need to go and look at the comment section below, and then we'll get you straight up how to join us in the Facebook community where we can interact and ask questions. If any of this was over your head or confusing, just shoot me a message. Private inbox, or just comment on the page, and we'll just keep on cooking, y'all. We're going to keep on learning and keep on growing. Look out in the next couple of days. We're going to go a little bit higher. Thanks again for you all watching. You all be blessed.